AITA for standing by my daughter and not punishing her after she hit a disabled boy at school who touched her inappropriately, even though the school and his parents are pushing for consequences. I'm 42F and a single mom to my daughter, Emily, 14F. We've been through a lot together since her dad passed away 5 years ago from a car accident. We moved to a smaller house in our suburban neighborhood to make ends meet, and I work as a nurse at the local hospital, pulling day shifts that let me be home for dinners, homework help, and her soccer games. Emily's a good kid overall. She plays on the school soccer team with practices twice a week, helps with chores like loading the dishwasher without much complaining, and gets decent grades in her classes, especially science, where she's always doing extra projects. Last week at school, during lunch in the crowded cafeteria with kids lining up for trays, a boy in her grade, 14M, let's call him Alex, who's autistic and has some learning disabilities, touched her inappropriately. He grabbed her chest while they were standing close in line for food. Emily reacted immediately by punching him in the arm and yelling at him to stop and back off. The school called me in for an urgent meeting with the principal, Alex's parents, and a counselor in the office that afternoon. They said Emily needs to be punished for assault, perhaps a suspension or detention because Alex has disabilities and didn't mean it. It was just his way of expressing interest or not understanding space. Alex's mom was in tears during the meeting, saying he's innocent and doesn't grasp social rules fully due to his condition. I defended Emily right there, saying she has every right to protect herself from unwanted touch, and I'm not punishing her at home. In fact, I told her later that she did the right thing by standing up for herself and not letting it slide. The school gave her a formal warning but pushed for more from me, like grounding her. And now Alex's parents are furious, calling me insensitive to disabilities and even hinting at involving higher-ups. Emily's shaken up but says she doesn't regret hitting him because it stopped him. My family is split on it. My sister texted NTA, saying we need to teach consent early no matter what. But my brother thinks I should have made her apologize to model empathy and consider the boys' challenges. The house has been tense since, with Emily quieter than usual at our evening meals, picking at her food. AITA, how do I support her without dismissing the boys' challenges or making her feel like she did something wrong? I've been replaying the meeting in my head during night shifts, wondering if I handled it right. Update 1. Thanks for the responses. Most of you said NTA, stressing that self-defense and consent are key, even when disabilities are involved, and that the school should focus on educating Alex instead of blaming Emily. A few suggested sensitivity training for all parties to avoid further escalation, which I noted. It helped me feel less isolated in this. The day after the meeting, the school emailed me demanding details on Emily's consequences at home, like grounding or writing an apology letter to Alex. I replied firmly but politely that we're handling it by discussing personal boundaries and safety, but there will be no punishment for her defensive reaction. It's a teaching moment about protecting oneself. That evening, Emily and I sat down over dinner at our kitchen table with her favorite pasta, and we talked it through. She described how Alex had been following her around for weeks in the hallways, staring and making weird comments about her hair or clothes, but she ignored it until the grab in the lunch line, which made her feel scared and grossed out. Hitting him was pure instinct, she said, and she was afraid he'd do it again if she didn't react. I hugged her and said I'm proud she protected herself, and that we'll work on reporting things earlier to teachers. Alex's parents called me directly that night on my cell, his dad yelling that I'm ableist and ignoring how autism affects social cues, demanding I make Emily face real-world repercussions. I stayed calm, suggesting the school teach Alex about consent and personal space instead of blaming my daughter, and ended the call. My sister came over the next day for support, bringing pizza and sodas, and we role-played with Emily how she could report issues to adults sooner. Some of Emily's school friends told her in group text that a few kids are siding with her, saying Alex has done similar stuff before, like hugging without asking, but he gets a pass from teachers. Work was hectic with back-to-back patient rounds, but I squeezed in a quick call to a child psychologist friend from the hospital for advice on helping Emily process the trauma without fear. The family chat blew up more. My brother texted that I should make her volunteer with disabled kids at a community center to learn compassion, which annoyed me because it misses the point. Emily slept better after our talk, but I'm worried about long-term effects like anxiety at school. The principal scheduled another meeting for us all. Maybe it'll bring some clarity, or at least a plan. Update 2. Reddit. Your tips on documenting everything and involving advocates if needed really got me moving forward with a clearer head. A few days after the call from Alex's parents, I requested Emily's school records and any incident reports related to Alex through an official form, and what came back was eye-opening. There were notes from last year about similar complaints from other girls, like unwanted touches or hugs in class, but the school just educated him with talks and no real follow-up or consequences. I brought printed copies of this to the next meeting at school, held in the conference room with the principal, counselor, Alex's parents, and even a district representative who joined via video. I pointed out the pattern calmly and asked why they weren't protecting all students equally, suggesting it was a failure on their part. Alex's mom defended him again, saying his autism means he learns differently and needs more leeway, and she demanded Emily apologize in person as restoration. The counselor suggested a joint mediation session where the kids could talk it out, but Emily, who was there with me, refused, saying it would make her uncomfortable and she didn't feel safe. I backed her up 100%, proposing instead that the school implement consent workshops for the whole grade, including resources for students with disabilities. The meeting got heated. Alex's dad accused me of bullying and trying to ruin his son's future, and the principal ended it by saying they'd review their policies and get back to us. Back home that evening, Emily confided over ice cream that she'd been anxious about going to school, avoiding the cafeteria, so we met with her soccer coach the next day after practice, who offered extra support like checking in during games. My sister researched local self-defense classes for teens, and we signed Emily up for Saturday mornings at a community center. Work gave me a flexible shift to attend the first one with her, but the exhaustion from all this hit hard. I dozed off while charting patients one night and had to catch up. Family weighed in more during a group call. My mom sided with me after hearing the full details, sharing her own story from when she was young, but my brother still pushed for some balanced punishment like extra chores for Emily. Friends from work and the neighborhood shared stories of similar incidents with their kids, making me feel validated that I wasn't overreacting. The school sent a follow-up letter outlining restorative justice steps, including Emily attending sensitivity sessions on disabilities. We're complying to keep peace, but I'm pushing back on anything that blames her for defending herself. Tensions are high, but Emily's starting to open up more about her feelings. Update 3. Following the tense meeting in Update 2, new details emerged that shifted perspectives for a lot of us involved, leading to some unexpected alliances. The school counselor followed up with me privately via email, admitting off record that Alex's behaviors had been flagged multiple times over the years, but his parents had resisted stricter interventions like specialized behavioral therapy, citing concerns about stigma and labels. This prompted me to contact a local advocacy group for students' rights and safety, who reviewed my documentation and advised filing a formal complaint about the school's handling of harassment cases. I did just that, detailing the pattern of incidents and the lack of protection for girls like Emily, and they agreed to support with a letter to the district. Meanwhile, Emily's self-defense class started. She came home from the first session energized, practicing basic blocks and escapes with me in the living room after dinner. We had a family video call with my siblings and parents to discuss the updates. My brother finally backed down after I shared the school's records, apologizing for not understanding the full picture and admitting he'd been thinking more about fairness than safety. My sister suggested we all attend an online workshop on neurodiversity and consent to educate ourselves, which we booked for the following week. Alex's parents reached out again, this time in a calmer email from his mom, apologizing for the initial anger and saying they're now enrolling him in social skills therapy at a local center to address boundaries. Emily decided to write a letter, not an apology, expressing her feelings about the incident, which the school accepted as part of the mediation process without forcing a face-to-face. At work, a colleague in pediatrics connected me with a support group for parents of teens facing harassment or trauma, and I attended my first meeting, sharing anonymously and getting tips on building resilience. Emily's soccer team rallied around her too, with a coach addressing team boundaries during a practice and encouraging open talks. The advocacy group responded positively to my complaint, pushing the school for immediate policy changes like better training for staff. Things feel like they're turning a corner. Emily's confidence is growing with each class, and family support is stronger than before. Another school meeting is set for next week. I'm hoping for real progress and closure. Update 4. 6 months since the incident at school that turned our world upside down, our lives have settled into a better, more stable rhythm with valuable lessons learned all around. The school's investigation, spurred by my complaint and the advocacy group's involvement, led to new policies. Mandatory consent education workshops for all students starting this year, including tailored programs for those with disabilities and improved reporting systems with quicker responses to incidents. Alex's family followed through with a therapy for him, and from what Emily hears through mutual friends, he's made improvements in how he interacts socially without any new incidents reported. We never forced a direct apology or meeting between the kids, but Emily feels heard after the mediation sessions shifted focus to mutual understanding rather than blame, helping her move past the anxiety. She's thrived in the self-defense classes, even teaching me a few moves during our weekly practice sessions in the backyard, and her soccer team made it to playoffs, boosting her spirits and giving her a positive outlet. Family bonds have strengthened too, We hosted a casual barbecue at our house where everyone discussed the experience openly, with my brother admitting his initial stance was misguided and committing to more empathy in how he approaches family issues. Work promoted me to shift supervisor, providing more stability for our routines and even some extra time off for Emily's events. Emily's become more vocal about her boundaries now, confidently reporting a minor issue at school last month. And we've added monthly family therapy sessions to keep communication open and address any lingering feelings. The initial drama taught us the power of advocacy and standing firm. Supporting Emily in her self-defense not only protected her, but sparked positive changes for the whole school community. If a kid defends themselves from inappropriate touch, backing them up can lead to broader growth and awareness. Reddit, your advice and shared experiences guided us through the tough spots. Closing this chapter.